Sushi Stu!
Now then, I'm Sushi Stu, and this is the Folk's Sake podcast, and I'm here with Adam Smith down at Woven in Coworth Park, and I've not been for about 5 years, and it's completely changed.
Yeah.
We've just had I've just had a nice tour, and we've just done a bit of a tasting with the team, haven't we? And yeah, you use a bit from stuff from us, don't you? Like?
Yeah, some things, a lot of things just to highlight what we're doing.
Yeah.
And it's great to see some new products and, get the mind working with some things that we've either used, dabbled in, but actually get a better understanding of it. And it's great. But yeah, obviously, since you last came, I think we've had a full restaurant refurb, and it's a whole different kettle of fish, as I say, compared to what it was then.
Yeah, we've changed loads anyway, so it's about time, isn't it? So, so I mean, if you could just tell the guys, what the concept of Woven is, and from where you were originally, because you've been here for about 8 years now, haven't you?
Yeah, coming up to 8 years, yeah. I've been here 8 years, and when I got here, it was Restaurant Coworth Park, and we was very grateful that we managed to achieve a Michelin star in my first full year here. And we had that, we still hold a star today, and we've sort of had it consecutively now. I think it's 7 years we've had a star for. But like everybody in lockdown, I had a little bit more time on my hands to think about, contemplate life, what do I want, where am I going, what do I want in my career? And I just felt that we'd become very much a stereotypical hotel restaurant. It was a beautiful hotel that happens to have a restaurant that had a Michelin star, which was great, and we were cooking at a great level, and we gave a good level of food and service. But I very much wanted to make something a little bit more, an amazing restaurant that happens to be in a beautiful hotel. And that's how kind of Woven was born, really. And I think the name Woven comes from sort of weaving in the ideas of the whole team and myself into making a food that is, I felt before we were very much pigeonholed, and I think it's one of them things that everybody asks you as a chef, how would you describe your style of food, or and it just really used to frustrate me because I felt we were pigeonholed into cooking a certain way, and that was probably my fault, my development as a cook and my confidence in what we're doing. And now it's very much about, actually, if we like it, we're going to serve it. We still showcase the best of British ingredients. We still want to cook very classically, because that's how I've always cooked and what I love. But now it's done in a way where we take influences from around the world, which is, a great representation of what's being cooked in the UK today. There's such a diverse food scene in the UK, which I think is amazing. And now we just kind of made it more personal. Cook how we want to cook. If we like something, we serve it. If we don't, we're not. You might find some things that are very old school and classic on there, and you might find other things that are, influenced from somewhere else that's totally different, but actually it just kind of works.
Yeah,
I think it works anyway.
Yeah, it's all well and good going for high innovation dinners and stuff, which is interesting, but being interested isn't necessarily being delighted, is it? Or having a nice experience. So it's nice that you've got a mix of surprises and just what is just a class, almost like a take on a classic.
At the end of the day, some things just have to be delicious. They have to taste really good, and everybody has their own way of getting there. And even our menu design is kind of, it's not a tasting menu, it's not an a la carte, it's kind of a mix of the two. The first sort of 8 to 10 things are set for everybody, almost like a tasting menu, and then the guest gets to choose, a starter, main, dessert, basically. And then we sort of tail end it with more 8 items that are sort of then set for everybody as well. I think that just fits our style of food better. Because again, before I felt like, it's a hotel, it was a restaurant, and we had to have an a la carte because people wanted choice, and we had to have a tasting menu because that's what I felt we needed to do. And we was always adding something to make it an a la carte, or taking something away, and it was always like that. Whereas now, just if it works, and it fits. Do you know what I mean? We don't need to add a potato dish or add a starch to make it all that. It's kind of
It sounds like confidence to me, really.
Yeah, it is.
Been here for a while
to be honest, it is. It's confidence and being able to just be that is what we do. It tastes good. It looks great, and people enjoy it.
I like the tasting menu format, but with the a la carte in the middle. That's an interesting.
Yeah, because I think, again, I like to cook that way. I love service, and the way that we operate our restaurant. It's a big restaurant. There's 44 seats in the main restaurant, another 10 or 12 in the conservatory where we're sat now. So you can be doing sort of 50 covers, and they're sat table by table. And if you're doing 2 scallop, 2 lamb, 2 beef, 2 scallop, like just a bit repetitive. I actually quite like the fact that, you know, I love the buzz of the service that, you know, we're cooking a turbot that's going with a lamb dish and we have to pull it all together at the same time. Makes it fun, right? And I think lots of people, and I think guests like that and appreciate that, but ultimately it's because that's how we like to cook and it fits our way of cooking. And yeah, I think it does take a level of confidence to be able to get to that point where you're just like, actually, this is what we're going to do. We're proud of it. We're convinced people are going to enjoy it, and touch wood, so far they all have. So yeah, it's kind of working.
That's where character perhaps comes from, or style. You know, you can only really get a style once you've got the confidence, I suppose.
Yeah, 100%. And I think, again, previously before Woven, our food was quite generic. You know, like we had some beautiful plates, but that beautiful plate, if you saw that plate of food, you could put that in numerous restaurants across the country, whereas now I generally feel that we're starting to build our own identity as a restaurant and as a cook, that people can look at a plate and say, oh, that's from Woven. Which I think all the best chefs in the country do, right? Like you can look at plates of food and say, okay, that's from Gareth, that's from Simon Rogan, that's from Sabat, wherever it might be.
I think Michael Wignall's got a bit of...
massively.
You can just go, that's definitely...
Yeah, you can look at a Wiggins plate of food and just like 100%, there's not many people who can cook like that, with that refinement. And I think that's a great place to be, where people can pick your food out just by looking at it. And fortunately, unfortunately, I don't know, we live in a world now where it's so dominated by social media and what people judge your restaurant and have opinions on it, and they've never even been, because they're just looking they're just saying what they've seen on social media and stuff like that. And that's the kind of fickle world that we live in sometimes. But, you know, we kind of need to play to that and use it, because it's not going to change, and just embrace it and use that to its best possible.
It's like, how do we sort of like positively use technology without it being cynical? You know, like there's ways that, you know, you watch influencer people on social media or whatever, and they kind of have the same ways of talking, and obviously they know it works to get more followers, to get more interaction, but it's so cynical, it makes me feel physically sick. You know?
I think it's a tool, right? It's a tool to showcase what you're doing, to bring people in, and then when they get here, you go back to old school hospitality and just making people feel good. And I think that's something that, again, the concept of Woven was very much about. I didn't want to have them starch waiters all standing around and that shush of a restaurant where you're too scared to talk to your partner because you don't want to, you know, the other table's going to hear you. It's like, actually just welcome people in, give them great food, make them feel welcome, give them an experience that's personal and enjoyable, and take away the pomp and the, you know, that almost like pretentiousness from it.
I think it's modern luxury, because the people who are coming like now, no, you know, there's a format, and we often talk about the Ritz as like a fantastic Dickie bow tie format. But luxury isn't necessarily just the white tablecloth thing that you probably used to have. Luxury, like the style, you've given me a bit of a tour now, and obviously not been for a few years, so it's much more what you'd expect from just a nice restaurant now. But you go to places like Decimo, you know, Pete Sanchez's place, it's like a casual bar, but it feels so luxurious as well, but you don't feel like uncomfortable with it, and that's what you want, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned somewhere like the Ritz. The Ritz is very unique in its style, right? And there's like, if anywhere else tried to be like that, they probably couldn't, because it doesn't have the soul that place does in terms of what they do, and that's what makes it so special and unique. But I think generally, and we find with our guests in the restaurant, I think for me, luxury is about the soft things. Like, yes, it's all great to sit on a beautiful chair that's been handcrafted, or, you know, beautiful tables. Yes, you need that stuff, but ultimately people are buying the luxury of just feeling good and making them enjoy that experience. And, you know, you can be sat on a cardboard box, but if you give me something that's absolutely delicious, I mean, you make me feel welcome and I'll leave with a smile on my face, then that's all you kind of want. And obviously we don't go to that extreme. We have beautiful fit out and things, but I think the focus should always be on the soft skills, and the soft skills being how somebody greets you with a smile, now somebody is able to have a genuine conversation. Like, no one wants a scripted waiter who stands there for 20 minutes reading you every ingredient on a dish. But we need to give the team the skills and the knowledge to be able to have them conversations and feel comfortable and have them conversations.
There's a lot of training to be able to from front of house, to be able to read what every individual person wants without specifically asking, do you want me to talk to you or not?
Yeah.
Because like a lot of people do not want you to tell them about where the grapes came from and all that sort of stuff. Some people are really interested in that sort of thing, aren't they?
Yeah.
But how do you flipping, guess? And that's real skill, isn't it?
That's the skill of the front of house team, is to judge that guest and be able to make that. And many people, like, I love eating out. I love drinking great wines, but I know nothing about wine. I just know what tastes good and if I like it or not. And I'd love to hear the story about it and the stories behind it. And I very much think about that with our food and the whole experience that we give to our guests. And it's reading that, but it's reading actually what do they want to know. Some people want to just be left alone, and some people want to know everything from your inside leg measurement, your shoe size, and what the cow was fed on. Do you know what I mean? Like and it's being able to give that interaction with the guest based to them, so making it very personal again.
With Woven being it's about stories and weaving the stories. How do you get those stories across to people and find out whether they want them or not? And I'm just talking about social media like way before. It's like positive ways potentially of using social media is to deliver quality information to the people who want it. Trying to be positive about how can we use something rather than just like waste people's time, like be the commercial break in the halfway through the football match that annoys you, that's halfway through the F1 or whatever.
Yeah.
It's can we use the surrounding marketing that you need to do for your restaurant to actually add some extra value outside the experience, maybe? Yeah,
I think there's lots of ways that, and I think there's so many avenues to discover. And I think we're still very young in the restaurant's history. It's like 18 months old. Although I've been here a long time, Woven is a whole new beast. It's the same 4 walls as what we had before, but the whole restaurant concept, the whole mindset behind it it's totally new. And as you know, we're still very young, and we're so lucky that we've got a team that are just so engaged and giving them the opportunity, front and back of house, to be able to evolve with it. And as we evolve, then we'll try to use as many avenues as we can. And ultimately, I think the success of any restaurant is based on how consistently busy you are. You can cook the best food in the world, but if your restaurant's empty, there's no good to anybody. So our focus is to have a busy restaurant, and how do you strike that balance is the hard one between you just creating something that's amazing, but actually making it amazing, but people also wanting to consume that. Do you know what I mean? And regularly, because we come back to it, like it's a decent sized restaurant, like to fill 50 seats 5 days a week that we're open, for across them 8 services a week, it's not easy. And given our location, we're pretty close to London. We're really accessible to London by train, but getting here, nobody drives past the front gate and thinks, I'm going to stop in there for dinner. They wouldn't even know it's here most places. Even when people are looking for us, they drive past the front door and they drive past it. I
mean, Ascot is quite an affluent area, isn't it, you might say? Yeah. But do you get many local people coming in and eating regular, or is it generally people who are interested in food, shall we say, who are coming specifically to eat here? Besides, obviously, people who are staying in the hotel, and want, just put them to one side from it.
We get a real mixture now, and I think Woven's really helped us turn that corner of, previously it would have been hotel residents, whereas now we get a real mix. We got some great loyal local guests who come back, on the regular basis. We got some people who come every other week and on different nights. We obviously have hotel guests. We have guests now who book the restaurant table and then stay in the hotel because the restaurant table is their priority, which is again a great place to be as a restaurant, that people are choosing that. We seem to get a real mix of people, and we're so grateful for that. It's just getting them numbers consistently, we have some people who are foodies, if that's I hate the word myself. It's a bit like fine dining.
Fusion. It's one of them painful words, isn't it?
But people who are just food obsessed and they're coming because they want to have a great experience and great food. We get that, and we get other guests who are in the hotel and they come and stay in the hotel and they want it's their anniversary or whatever, and they're coming to eat with us. So we get a real mix, and I think that's a healthy place to be in the modern world. We kind of need to try and tick all them boxes to maintain that level of business. And we're doing it. I think we're doing it quite well. We are doing it quite well. The numbers are good, and guest feedback is great. But we could always be better. And I think our focus is always on getting the product right. And I think if you get no matter where you are, if you get the product right, people will come. And there's some amazing examples of restaurants in this country in the middle of nowhere, but they're just amazing restaurant and amazing destinations, and they're consistently busy. So you know, there's no excuse really.
The top performers are always going to be busy because everyone wants to go there, but there is a bit of a burden to it really. So like if your business model is you've got to be full all the time, that's dangerous, isn't it? You know, you really are running on the edge.
Yeah, and I think, you know, we have a decent number, so we don't need to be full all the time. And I mean, it's just one of them things you would like to be. Do you know what I mean? Wouldn't we all like to be? But you know, like I said, 50 covers is a big number, including both spaces. So you know, I think you need a level of guests in the restaurant to give an atmosphere as well, because I think, again, no one likes to sit in an empty restaurant. No one wants to be the only table of two. There's nothing worse than...
And fine dining restaurants are quite well spaced out compared to regular restaurants, aren't they?
You can imagine being sat there, and very much everything we looked at Woven was based on some of my worst experiences I've ever had, and some of them are in like fantastic restaurants with more accolades than what we've got. But you know, I was by far the youngest person by 50 years in the room, and there's 5 waiters all standing around staring at me. And I just think that's the last thing that you want in a restaurant nowadays.
You're not going to get more young people.
No,
there,
you want people to come in and feel comfortable and have an atmosphere and have again, another word I hate, but a vibe. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like another sort of, that people like, it gets you excited. Do you know what I mean? And I think so many things that help to make that happen. And it's just constantly thinking and then working with the team, the front of house team, a lot to just sort of take them little notches all the time and evolve. And just like all the best restaurants do, you don't stand still.
Yeah.
Because I think the moment you stand still, you almost start going backwards. So you need to constantly be pushing that.
I quite like the idea of the negative inspiration. Like having a really bad experience, not slagging it off or being horrible about it, although that is quite funny sometimes. But like going, right, that really didn't work for us. So we can walk in the absolute opposite direction to that. And actually then that's quite a good data point, really. I'm glad it wasn't me.
And that's just individual. Again, I think you just do what's right for you and your business. And I think some people may enjoy things to be like that, and that's what they want to do. But I very much look at it in the case of actually, how do I feel? Because I think anything, you have to be comfortable and proud of your product.
Yeah.
You have to believe in it. So to try and cut out all the things that maybe you don't enjoy about dining. And it's not about necessarily, it's just what do I look for when I'm going out to eat, and what do I enjoy and what don't I enjoy. And if we don't enjoy it, then we try to, you know, negate them things out of the experience. And it's not always possible. Like everybody will have a quiet day. You know, there's nothing better than walking into a full restaurant and it being all like getting a great vibe. But then you'll have some guests who want a quiet evening. Do you know what I mean? So you can't please everybody, right?
Yeah.
But it's trying to build something that pleases much more people than you don't.
Yeah, but also you don't want it to be so middle ground that it's nothing.
Yeah, exactly. You have to stay
right?
true to yourself, right? You have to stay true to what you think is right and keep that going.
Tell us about tell us a couple of bad experiences you've had. You don't have to name any names.
So one of the worst ones was, again, I was very young, so I found that quite intimidating.
Just the fact you were young?
Just the fact that I was young, just the fact that I was like, you know, in my early 20s with my partner, and everyone else in the room was, you know, 50 plus. And, you know, it was very quiet. There was no music in the restaurant. The service team was standing around the room, like, hands in front of them and watching you. They just felt uncomfortable. And I get it, some places might enjoy that, but for me it was something that I was just like, actually, I had amazing food tonight and actually had great service because they was really attentive, but I just didn't enjoy the whole atmosphere of it. And I think trying to take that away, I think, is something. And I never like to be sort of intimidated by things, you know, like nobody knows everything, like, and anyone who claims to do is a nutter. But I think things should be approachable, but yet still exciting and still sort of like something new, like, oh wow, like, you know, when you taste something that you get that sense of nostalgia, and some things you're pushed on. I think that really works with our menu concept. You know, that beginning part of the menu, we really try to push things in a way that we love stuff, and maybe it's something that people don't necessarily choose themselves. Like we have a jellied eel dish on, and we call it jellied eel, and it's one of my favourite dishes because people read it and they kind of screw their nose up and think of something soft and mushy and a jar in southeast London somewhere, which is not to everybody's taste. I actually quite enjoy them, but you know that other people, you know, it's not to everybody's taste. But that dish gets such great feedback because people are like, oh wow, I didn't expect that. It was amazing. It was my favourite dish because it just...
Are people worried about it when they see it on the menu?
because they read jellied eels and they think, but actually they taste it and they're like, oh wow, I loved it, because it goes beyond what their expectation is.
Yeah.
You know, and I think we can all go out in so many great restaurants in this country, and you can have a beautiful scallop or a langoustine or a piece of beef or whatever, but you know, and you have an expectation of what that's going to be. So to surpass that is sometimes hard, but to a dish like a jellied eel, people are quite often like, but then they taste it and they're blown away by it. Yeah. And I love stuff like that. I love to be able to give people things that they wouldn't necessarily choose, but actually when they eat it and they're like, wow, that was just delicious and a beautiful plate of food.
Octopus is a bit like that. It gross people out sometimes, and sometimes it is horrible, but sometimes you have it and it's been prepared amazingly and accessibly as well, you know. Yeah. A lot of the time, you know, we touched on it earlier, is like Britain's an island but we don't eat any fish. The majority of people, I know everyone who's like, people who are interested in what we're talking about, you know, most people are okay with fish, but you know, like loads of people in my family don't eat fish ever.
Growing up, the only fish I had was like from the chippy or a fish finger, which is like 0.3% fish or something.
I didn't even know they had fingers.
Yeah, me neither. But like, do you know what I mean? Because it's just not something that's ingrained in our culture. And actually now, if I have a choice when I eat out, 9 times out of 10, if there's in somewhere decent, I'll go fish, because it's something that's actually day to day in living in a supermarket. So if you don't get great fresh fish, it's just not there, unless you have a great local fishmonger that's quite small. So when I have the opportunity to eat great fish, I love it. And same with shellfish. Like shellfish is like my favourite thing. We have, at the minute, we've got crab, we've got lobster, we've got langoustine, we're using lots of different shellfish on the mix. I just love it, and I love the taste of it, and I love we use them a lot in sauces to give that depth of flavour and stuff like that. So I think it's just it's a difficult one, isn't it? Because
people come here though, they do want to experience, like you said, you eat seafood when you go out, because at home it's very hard to access those high quality ingredients through supermarkets. I mean, we you know, Aldi and Lidl and stuff, no offence Aldi and Lidl if you're listening, but they've become massive, haven't they? They didn't exist like 20 years ago really, or maybe they did, but it wasn't what it is now. No. And there was a big boom towards massive selection in supermarkets, wasn't it? Like, it's just pre-internet age, maybe early 2000s, where they were building these mega-sized supermarkets that had loads of range. And it's kind of flipped to these tiny supermarkets where half of the supermarket is just like, I don't know, Flymo and some stationery, and then like you got chicken breast. If you're lucky, they've got a chicken thigh. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? It's like very reduced, isn't it? Everything. Like you've got strawberries at Christmas time. It's weird, isn't it? Yeah,
it's strange. But I think that's just a reflection of society, because there's a demand there. You know what I mean? And I think
or not demand for the range.
Yeah, or not demand for the range, but you know, people expect to have strawberries in December or Christmas or whatever. Do you know what I mean? Like, because they want strawberries. Whereas there's other countries in the world that stay much more true to the seasons and things like that. And if you know, you go to parts of Europe and you know, you can be eating the same food that's in the shops is the same food you'll eat in, like, take San Sebastian, in the Pinchos bars, but then you go to a 3 Michelin star restaurant and they're using the same ingredients, but they're just...
Wouldn't it be nice to be able to access that in your local supermarket? You know what my local Aldi was selling like last week when I went in? Only Fools and Horses. Plush teddies.
Teddies?
Plush teddies, Only Fools and Horses themed. Yeah. Instead of a better selection of food. That's a strange choice.
I think if I spoke to my kids, like they're 9 and 14, I don't know what Only Fools and Horses was.
I don't think they're into Del Boy.
No, I don't think they would. It's strange.
I went to Wakayama, which is like a place in Japan, last summer. I went to a supermarket because I was with like the government on like a booze buying mission, which was good. But they took us to the supermarket as well. And this isn't near the coast, this place where we were. And the amount of range in the supermarket, not just fish actually, of vegetables as well, was honestly stunning. It wasn't even a big supermarket. It was probably as big as an Aldi. But the selection was honestly unbelievable. There must have been 300 different kinds of fish. Yeah. Fresh.
And in terms of fruit and vegetable, was that all? And was it all native or was it imported or?
That's a good question. A lot of it was local, as in literally local to that area. All other parts of Japan, they had mangoes. Have you ever had a Miyazaki mango?
No.
I think Alfonso mangoes are good. Wow, they're outrageous. But these weren't from Miyazaki; they were from Okayama, which is near there. So yeah, they were. But it's that depth of local food like you get in when you go to, like, say, San Sebastian. I went to Barcelona the year before, and in the city centre supermarket, they had like 4 or 5 different kinds of tomato, and you could tell that they were quite different, and they looked amazing. And I just wonder why we have such a poverty of choice. Is it consumer driven or is it climate driven? Because those flipping the food that was in the Aldi is from like Kenya and stuff. It's not like, I just don't get it.
It's a strange one. It's a real mix, and I think, I don't know, it's probably a circle that one reflects the other. They both reflect each other, and over time it's just got to the point where it is now. But I think because we don't probably produce that wide range of, like, again, if you go to if supermarkets are stocking, British fruit in December, what would they have to show, really? Like, do you know what I mean? And I think one of the strengths of the UK is the diversity of the food scene. I think it's amazing.
Yeah.
So
in the restaurants.
In the restaurants, but also in society, right? Like, I grew up in Birmingham, which is like an amazing city, and we had family friends who were Jamaican, Indian, like from all over the world, and you'd get to experience amazing foods from all over the world, and that's fantastic. And I love that, and I think that's kind of reflected in kind of the way that we cook now, because what is British? Yeah. British now is that multicultural hub, which I think is unrivaled in the rest of the world. There's parts of America where their food, and the cities that their food is as diverse.
Yeah,
but
that's an immigrant country, obviously, isn't it?
Yeah.
But we were chatting before that Britain is a country that went out 500 years ago and sort of nicked everything. Yeah. So we are kind of a bit of everything. So we should really reflect that. Of course, you want to reflect the stuff that naturally is growing here, your beetroots, your rhubarbs and things like that. But the other side of our culture, which is genuine, is the international trade.
100%. And I think that's what makes it so exciting. I generally love that. I love that you can go out and have such a wealth of different things to, I love going down the supermarket and looking at, like, they all have a world aisle or whatever, and just trying different things. I think it's a great place to be, and I think it's exciting, and that's where you can get inspiration from. Even like today, we're trying stuff, and it's like, oh, that's really cool, and it just gets the mind ticking. And we use things like that in our cooking to highlight, we have a great crab dish on, which is some beautiful Portland crabs. That's, we get every day, we handpick them, they're beautiful, but it's with like a Thai green sauce, and it just works. Do you know what I mean? And so we're taking ingredients to highlight our ingredients, and I think that's a really healthy place to be, and a really nice place to be, because it's just delicious. Do you know what I mean? And I think there's not enough emphasis on just food just being delicious. Like, there's too many of us chefs, we're like poncing around with stuff to look good or get Instagram likes, whereas actually, if you close your eyes and put something in your mouth, does it get you excited? And I think that's where every dish should start off with, really.
But you do have like quite a lot of classical sort of like heritage, haven't you? Like training. Yeah. I mean, you obviously won Great British Menu recently. Yeah. Pretty cool. Yeah. And that was quite a classic dish.
Very much, yeah.
Was it sole? What was the fish again?
It was brill.
Brill. Okay, yeah.
Yeah. And I think that, and again,
it does look like something you just want to eat, though. That.
Yeah, but it's just really, it's delicious because of the sauce making and things like that. So a lot of our, when you talk about classical cooking, it really bugs me, because people think
it's like, mean French?
Because people just switch off. They think classic cooking means boring, but actually, I think it gets me excited, because it's just like a lot of the base of things of every great restaurant. There's an element of classical cooking in there, whether that be the sauce making. And I think that's what we focus a lot on, our sauce making. And I think a great sauce can make or break a dish. And that dish for Great British Menu was a beautiful piece of Cornish fish. We'd kombu brined it, we'd covered it in the trout mousse, it's steamed, but then it's got 2 sauces with it that just it's just
that truffly sort of like
it's just
golden
like
glossy
lip
sauce.
smacking. It's just like, great, give me the sauces, give me a loaf of bread and a spoon, then you're a happy man. Do you know what I mean? And I think we blend them things together, but you know, the core of that classical sort of the sauce making, particularly the sourcing of ingredients, the meat and fish prep, is very much based in the classics, and we use other influences to highlight that, and that's just how my style has evolved in the last 20 years I've been doing this. And I spent 10 years at the Ritz, so you're going to learn. You're going to enjoy, and I fell in love with
You'd
the
be daft
old school.
not to use it as well.
And I fell in love with the haute cuisine. That's what I know. And then you're constantly learning with different ingredients and products and techniques as you go along, and then weaving them into what we do every day. And it's just sort of, I think that's what keeps it fun. I don't like doing the same thing all the time. Like I find it just monotonous. It's just like, it's boring. So constantly trying to bring things in, and now we're in a position with Woven the way that it is to do that and not be worried about what are they like, because people generally come here with their eyes wide open, wanting to have an experience rather than like you've got to tick a box of being a hotel restaurant, as it were.
I think it's the flip side of what I was talking about, the lack of range and people don't eat fish in Britain and all that sort of stuff I was talking about before. The flip side of that is we've got quite a lot of people who are really open to innovation and open to new experiences, and it's kind of like a split, and you probably and a lot of people in the sort of fine dining scene are just full of those sort of people. They're coming here with like a really open mind. They want to try a bit of everything. They want to have a new experience, and we have got that sort of that really innovative mindset, haven't we?
And I think, definitely, and I think the modern day, you'd have walked into a restaurant in a 5-star hotel 25 years ago. There'd be a profile of guests that'd be pretty similar everywhere, right? And I think they would all be of a certain age, and they'd all be like after a certain thing. Whereas I think today, 20 years ago, while I would save up my money to buy a nice pair of trainers or a t-shirt or whatever it was, whereas I think younger people today save up for experiences like eating out in great restaurants. We have such a great influx of younger guests that are coming out because they're just...
I would have never dreamed of coming out to a Michelin-starred restaurant. No,
they wouldn't. Whereas, and I think that's one of the great things about social media and TV and stuff like that. It's opened the world up to, a younger demographic, which I think is amazing. I love to welcome them sort of guests in and see something that's maybe they've not had before, and that people are saving up for that rather than like when you and I were both a bit younger, it would be for more like material things, whereas now it's kind of experiences. Like nowadays I think people are saving up and spending their money on the experiences of things, and I think again that's them sort of people tend to be wanting to.
Younger people are dining out casually as well, aren't they?
100%.
My kids are quite young, and they want to go out with their mates and have like have a bit of food to eat. I mean, like, when you were like a teenager, did you go out for dinner with your mates?
No, I'd never eaten in a decent, like, the only time I went out for dinner was if I got dragged along with my parents and for a special occasion. But
to a Brewers Fair or something.
Yeah, I mean, my son's 14 and he loves sushi. Like, he generally loves sushi and that kind of thing. That's his thing. And he'll, I love going out with them now because now they're at an age where we can go to great places to eat and they can enjoy it and I can enjoy it, and they're quite adventurous. My daughter not so much. She's still quite beige, like chicken nugget and some broccoli. It's about pushing her limits, but they're also at an age where they can appreciate good things, and they're lucky because I'm lucky. I've had lots, the opportunity to go to eat in great places, and I've shared that with them. And I think that's what for me, dining out is not always about what you're eating or where you are. It's about the people you share it with. I know it sounds a bit cheesy and a bit cliche, but on my day off, I want to spend it with my children and the missus. Like, that's what I want to do, and I want to go and enjoy all of them things that I like together. And it's making dining, like here, approachable and accessible. It goes back to
experience, though, doesn't it? It's like the food does come second to having a good night. Doesn't it? The food isn't the good night. Food should support the good night.
100%.
I've been out for nights out with people and having such a good time, and then they brought the menu for me to choose something off the menu, and I'm thinking, I can't be bothered to choose something. I know if the restaurant's good, everything will be all right. And that's where I suppose like a good tasting menu comes in. But I'm just enjoying myself so much. The food kind of seems secondary, and that's for someone who really likes food like me.
Yeah, and that's, I think, as a chef as well, I think sometimes we have to get past our egos and just be like, actually, you know, you can have amazing food, but if you're not made to feel welcome and you're uncomfortable, you're going to walk away. Like I was saying, like some of the experiences I didn't enjoy, that's exactly how I felt. I walked away having like not had an amazing time. I had amazing food, but also I just felt uncomfortable. And I think now, each, you know, as a restaurant, we try to, you make your identity of what you are and bring people in, and, you know, you're naturally going to attract people that want to dine in that sort of environment. And when they walk away having had a fantastic time. And I think if I go out with my kids and the missus, then I want to be able to walk away having had I want amazing food, but I want great service that meets my expectation, and your expectation of where you're going is different. And I think that's
tricky for front of house though, isn't it? You know, you're talking about older people, you were the only younger person, and now younger people are going out. There's obviously quite a large selection of age ranges, and people are expecting different experiences within the same building. It's kind of like, from a front of house point of view, it's got to be tricky, isn't it?
But that's where the skill is. Like, you know, there's very few places now where the front of house, that skill is in the soft. That skill is in how you read people, how you converse with people, how you communicate with them, and how to judge that moment of, you know, having that conversation about where the crab comes from and what's gone into it, or do people just want to be left alone? And that's the true art of hospitality and service. I mean, there's that element of people doing stuff tableside is coming back and being done in elements, but it's been done in a very different way to what it was previously. You know, that old school Garridon stuff, there's a few places that do amazingly well, and it's amazing when it's done. But there's a lot of places now doing little elements of that.
What's that then? What's that?
Like just finishing things at the table.
What's Garridon?
Like,
I've never heard of that.
Like, you know, if you go somewhere and they're carving a chicken at the table. So,
okay.
Or the
thing in the big inflatable bladder where they pop it.
Yeah, the on Vessi and stuff like that, which is amazing seeing if you're in the right place. But that doesn't fit everywhere. We don't do things like that, but we do a lot of finishing sauces or adding caviar or adding truffle or adding little elements at the table, because it gives an opportunity. The dish gets to the table in a better shape and it finishes it to its optimum. But it gives the team that opportunity to interact and converse with the guest.
It feels it makes the food feel a bit more 3D almost.
Yeah, it just adds to the whole experience of, like, you know, this is whatever we're adding, and then gives guests the opportunity to ask questions, and the front of house team the opportunity to impart their knowledge on the guest as well, and hopefully add to the experience, but also read the guests if they don't want anything interaction as well, because that's just as important. Because if you're in a business meeting or you're having, you know, a very intimate evening with, you know, a loved one or whatever, then maybe you just want to be left alone. And I think the skill is to be able to manage that, which I'm not very good at. That's why I stay back of house. I'll leave that to the front of house guys.
There's a back of house, front of house vibe though, isn't there? You know, like I did used to work in a restaurant when I was a teenager, but I was front of house, and it was very different when you went through that door in the 90s.
Yeah.
There's a lot more things being thrown around.
Yeah, but I think them days are gone. Like, I mean, I think, you know, life's too short to be miserable. Like, you want to enjoy it. And actually, I definitely believe that we get better at a team when the team, again, if you strip it back and think about it, if somebody's too scared to come and ask you about something, what would I rather them do in the restaurant? Would I rather them come and ask me a question? Would I rather them be too scared to come and ask me and just tell them something that they've made up or read or they don't really know or understand? And that doesn't make any sense. I'd much rather have a team of people who all share the same ethos, they share the same core values and want the same thing, and work together to create that.
It's always the leader's fault, isn't it? Like, if they're not performing, are they rubbish, or are you just not helping them enough?
Yeah, and I think it definitely starts at the top. Do you know what I mean? And it's what culture you create, and I think it's a balancing act. You have to get it right. But I also think that, you know, it's very easy to have a hostile environment. I quite often, like, this is 20 years this year since I moved to London, when I started what I call my first proper job. Because I'd worked in like pubs and small restaurants before that, but it wasn't.
How old were you when you went to London?
16
Oh,
when,
wow.
when I first moved to
And
London.
where did you go first?
To the Ritz. Yeah.
At 16?
Yeah.
Deep end.
Yeah. Yeah, so I went deep end, and I think that was 20 years, and this is the first time in my career where I've generally say, without being again cheesy about it, that we have actually a team. It's not like front of house, back of house. They interact properly and professionally and in the right way. People are able to have, again, 20 years ago, the world was a very different place, like very, very different place. And it was, kitchens were full of this like macho testosterone.
We had a good sort of like set. We've just done a tasting in here with the team, and it is a mix of British people, people from abroad, ladies, men, sommeliers, general managers, chefs, and everyone was like, and they were tasting the drink and they were tasting the food. So everyone was involved in everything. It was,
and I think
diverse.
That's the way that we approach it. Is like everybody's got an opinion. Everybody can have an idea, and it's harnessing them to a point, and then as a leader, make a decision. Do you know what I mean? Like, everyone can have your ideas. This is what we want to do. What do you think? What do you think? Okay, but I'm going to make a decision and go with this. And it's not necessarily always the most popular view, but you can always learn something from just listening to them conversations.
You've had more data points, essentially, haven't you?
But they all see things very differently to me. If we've got, someone in their early 20s who sees things on social media totally different to what I do, do you know what I mean? And has a better understanding than what I do. And I think it only makes us better if I listen to that and say, actually, maybe I don't agree with you, or maybe we're not going to do that, but actually you've got a very valid point, because you just see things differently, you see the world differently. And I think, again, I just think that's a good place to be. Like, the more you listen, the more influences you can take, but then you just have to stick to your guns and make the right decision of what you think is for your business and your food or your experience that we want to give. And I love the fact that we've got such a diverse team. Some of our youngest team members are like in their late teens, and some of our oldest are in, I've got one of my chefs is 72. So it's like, we've got a real range of people from all over the world, and I just love that.
You don't get many chefs in that age range, but you do get lots of people working still in the 60s and 70s. So, and I know it's a hard job, but isn't it a bit damning that we don't have many older people working in the industry like that? It is a bit of a shame, isn't it?
It is.
Because it would add another dimension to it.
Yeah, and I think it is. And if you're going to Europe and other parts of the world,
there's lots of older people.
There's lots more, the range. And unfortunately, particularly front of house in this country, hospitality has become that sort of stopgap career. And I think that's because we don't talk about things so positively enough. Like, as an industry, this industry can give you everything. If you want to be an accountant, hotels, restaurants, they all need accountants. They all need, there's so many avenues you can take. Marketing,
sales.
In-house florists, table design, like
cleaning.
everything. But there's everything, right? There's so many different avenues in our industry. It's such a rich environment where everybody's skills can be utilised. And I think we just need to shout about the positive things more. Everybody shouts about the tough things. Everybody shouts, and every job, every industry has its like negativities or hard points. But I think a lot of people always talk about hours, and I think if you want to succeed in any job, like there's no CEO of a bank who checked in at 9 and checked out at 5 on the dot without coming in early or going late. Like, if you want to get to the top, you have to put the effort in, and it is hard and it is difficult. But actually, let's focus on the positives, like the camaraderie, the team, the ability to learn, and all them things that come with what is an amazing industry. And listen, we've got a long way to go. There's so much more we can do, but actually, let's talk about them positive things a little bit more. That's what we try and do, and keep people. Like, you can't buy time, and how much effort and energy do you put into people to have this constant churn if you don't create an environment where people want to be. And I think people want to be in a place, people are prepared to work hard, and people are prepared to deal with the rough things if they feel like they're learning something, if they feel like they're valued, and if they feel like they can take something from it. Because we have to be selfish. Like, I tell all my team, you've got to be a little bit selfish. You've got to take. If you're not taking something from us or from me or from whatever, like, you're silly. Like you have
and
to.
they're not growing, are they?
No,
if they're not doing
you have
that.
to take something for your own development as a cook, as a restaurant team member, whatever that is. You have to be selfish, and you have to have an aim or a goal that you want for yourself. And if you don't, then you're probably not the right person that we want anyway, because you're not ambitious enough to want to grow and progress. And my job is then to harness them people and keep giving them the opportunities and use them where I can. And you get to a point where somebody moves on, and that's great. Like, fantastic, where you going, make sure you're going to the right place. But I think it all comes from back to that positive side of things, and I think quite often too many of us focus on the negatives, and I think there's so much more this industry has to offer to people, and so many good things that we do.
Yeah.
And the focus is quite often on the opposite end of the spectrum.
I mean, I think we're only trying to create good things in hospitality. That's what it's about. And I think, you know, we're in a bit of a tough time globally at the moment, you know, like, and if there's something to fight for, it's nice experiences and trying to build something positive, really. And it's interesting from coming to see you when you were, before it was Woven, and the journey that you've gone on to where it is now. And it's really nice to see. And but thanks so much for talking to me today, mate. It's
Pleasure.
been absolute
Lovely.
pleasure. And I can't wait to see you again.
Thank you.
Thanks, man.
Cheers, buddy.
Forks a podcaster with Sushi Stu.